What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Gamecite Chronicles, the console gaming podcast where we sit down each and every week to talk about our favorite hobby, video games. I'm your host, Bonfire, and this is episode number 11. And I hope you're having a good week out there. You're probably having a better week than I've had because, my family's been sick. So my son got sick on Monday, this past Monday, or a week ago from when this podcast goes live. And then my wife was also getting sick. She had an ear infection. And then I was doing fine. I was solid. And I was the trooper kind of catering to their needs. And then it spread to me. And I've had like a sore throat, like body aches, and just really super tired lately. I think I'm on the up. And so if my voice sounds a little, I still got a little bit of a sore throat. So my voice might sound a little tired. And hopefully I can make it through this podcast. And I got to be honest, I was a little worried I might miss a week because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to record because I was struggling. I was on the struggle bus, with my throat and my voice and all that stuff. So we're making it through it though. And I've been thinking I probably have had COVID. I think my wife had it and now I have it. So who knows? I got the Modelo virus, but I don't know. I didn't take a test or anything. So I can't confirm that. It is what it is. Whatever. I'm feeling better though. Just taking like Dayquil, NyQuil type of thing. But anyways, I hope you're doing better than me out there. I hope you got some gaming time in. I know I sure did. Actually, I got quite a bit of gaming time. I'm excited to talk about that here in a bit. But for the uninitiated, remember the best way you can support the show is to leave a comment and a rating on whatever platform you're consuming the podcast on. It certainly does help, and I would greatly appreciate that. Plus, I want to hear from you guys and inject all of your wonderful comments into the show, make it as interactive as possible. Also, don't forget to join us over on Locals. That's the Gamesite chronicles.locals.com. It's kind of where I want to get a community on this kind of new alternative platform. I think it's a really cool platform, and you should check it out. And lastly, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Gamesite Podcast. And finally, remember, new episodes of the podcast go live each and every week on Mondays, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, before we get into the main kind of topic of the show, what games we're playing, a couple of news items, I do have a correction I want to issue from last week because I feel like an idiot as I was editing the podcast. I said last week that it was episode 11 of the podcast, and that was incorrect. This week is episode 11. Last week is episode 10. And I didn't, as I was editing it, I realized that, and I didn't bother. I was like, you know what? If someone figures it out, no big deal. They can let me know in the comments. So anytime you guys have corrections, feel free to send them in because, everyone makes mistakes. It happens. And when you're just blabbing into a microphone, you're bound to say something stupid or mess something up. So this is episode 11. Last week was episode 10. Now for this week, I feel like we kind of got a beefy episode of the show, because I want to talk about Xbox. I feel like I've been a little down on them in the last couple of episodes of the show we've done, talking about Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, the subscription service, and the kind of shift towards this model that, candidly, I'm not really a big fan on. But I want to talk about Xbox. And originally I was going to hone in on checking in on what Xbox's first-party studios are up to and see what games they're working on, talk about them, my thoughts on them, and just kind of go through their first party lineup, which is quite beefy because they've acquired so many people here lately. But they made the announcement this week that they're doing their E3 showcase in June. And so I figured let's take that as an opportunity to not only go through the first party lineup, but also let's make some predictions for that showcase. So that's what we're going to talk about this week. We're going to dive into those. And I think it'll be a lot of fun because I learned some things, and I got to say, when looking at that lineup, Xbox has got some good stuff, I think, coming down the pike. Now, before we get into that and the games we're playing, there is one small news item I wanted to cover. Correction, two small news items I wanted to cover. And the first of those is there's a rumor circulating, kind of going on, and Push Square put out a nice article about that. You can probably tell I check Push Square pretty frequently, as well as shout out to Nintendo Life and shout out to Video Games Chronicle. Those are fantastic websites. I think they do great reporting. But there's a rumor circulating that PS5 and PS4 games over $34 must have a premium 2-hour trial coming soon. And so I think this is part of the PS Plus Premium tier, which talks about that users get access to time-limited game trials. And so the report, which is originally from Game Developer, states that many games which cost $34 or more in the PlayStation Store must also provide a time-limited demo. The report also states that this is not retroactive, so this would only be for games going forward. You're not going to magically just see a bunch of new demos for older games pop up on there. And so when I heard this and I read through the article, I initially thought, well, this is kind of a win. This is a win for consumers. Again, the term consumer friendly comes to mind. And I like the idea of being able to try a game before you buy it, and being able to try a game for 2 hours before purchasing. I think is awesome. I think it's really good. However, I kind of think about it, trying to get out of my shoes and into like developer shoes. I wonder if it's a pain for them, because it feels like maybe just more red tape you got to go through to get your game up on PlayStation. So I would love to hear from developers and kind of get their take on this. If it is true, again, this is just a rumor, so we got to keep that in mind. A little grain of salt there. But again, I like this idea. I know Steam. I'm not a PC gamer, and again, this is a console gaming podcast, so we don't really talk about PC gaming. But I know Steam, for example, has you can buy a game, play it for a couple hours, and if you don't like it, you can get a refund for that game. And so this kind of circumvents that a little bit, to where you can try a little demo, and if you like it, then you can go purchase it. And I like that. And it reminds me back in the day when there seemingly was more demos, and you could try out a variety of different games, see what you like, and then you could pick it up. And I think that's wonderful. And I think this could lead to more game sales, and puts a little pressure on the devs to get their games right, have a nice polished demo to put out there, or at least it is, chunk of the game that can sell your game. So I like that. I think that's a good push. But one of the things that concerns me about this, that just kind of thinking about it, is like 2 hours. I'm wondering if that's like a set limit. I'm sure that's a max limit. But I kind of think about, when you think about indie games or smaller games, or games that just aren't as long, like if you do 2 hours of that game, that's could be, a fifth, or in some instances half of the game. So I'm wondering if the devs have control over what chunk of the game is the demo. So could it be, if it is a smaller game, could it just be a 2 hour time limit to maybe play a level of that game? That to me makes sense, and I think could work out. But it's just really interesting. Also, that $34 price tag is really interesting too. Like, where does that number come from? Because I don't know. It's a really weird number to just kind of throw out there. So, really interesting rumor. I wanted to bring it up because I think it's fascinating. Is PlayStation's ramping up to launch this new PlayStation Plus in all the tiers. It's kind of an exciting time just to see what's going to happen, and lots of new things are on the horizon in the PlayStation ecosystem. But let me know what you guys think about this. And would you like having access to 2 hour demos on the PlayStation Store for a variety of games before you actually make the purchases? I'm mostly for this. I'd love to hear from the developer side of it, if how they feel about this, and is this more red tape to get to the PlayStation Store? But I think at the end of it, I think it's a very good thing. A very, very good thing. The other news item I wanted to briefly touch on, and mostly because we had coincidentally talked about this game last week when we talked about 5 games that just kind of seemed gone dark. We're like, what happened to these games? And one of those is Skull and Bones. And so actually this past week, a Skull and Bones gameplay video leaked. And I didn't actually get to watch the video because it got taken down, I think, fairly quick. But as reported by Video Games Chronicle, the gameplay shows both, ship gameplay, on-foot gameplay, which I didn't realize you could actually get off the ship in this game. And it shows that players will earn like infamy, in a variety of ways through like contracts. You can do deals with NPCs, and you can play cooperatively with friends. And I think there's this like hub world and all of this. And so it sounds really interesting. I think with this video being leaked and it being pretty much gameplay exclusively, you have to imagine this game's probably fairly close. So maybe we'll see it this year, which would be really interesting. And so hearing more about this game, it it really does sound like Sea of Thieves. And are they too late to this party? Because Sea of Thieves has got a pretty solid fan base. Like when it first came out, and we'll talk about Sea of Thieves here in a little bit when we talk about all the Xbox studios, but it kind of came out a little rough, not a lot of content, but they've really done a lot of work and really won a lot of people over, and it seems to have been really found its place amongst the video games out there in a strong fan base, seemingly. So I don't know. I don't know if there a market for this, but for me, it sounds interesting though. I didn't realize you can actually get off your ship and there'd be parts where you can kind of go and explore on foot and stuff like that. And so I'm more. It's funny because I talked about last week with this game. As I said, like this game does not speak to me whatsoever. But seeing a little bit more and maybe realizing the potential, if there's a somewhat of a story here, and I can play this as a single player, maybe I'll give it a try. I don't know. So I'm kind of seeing this game because remember they shift this game to focus on a multiplayer first when they rebooted it, I think in 2020. And obviously that means they're going live. This is going to be a live service game, 100%. And so I can imagine the live service and concepts of like seasons, themes, etc. of Sea of Thieves, but kind of in this Assassin's Creed setting. Those are the vibes I'm getting. It does sound interesting. I really wish I could have watched this gameplay trailer. But like I said, if this has any single player components or is a game that might be worth it for single players like myself to jump into, maybe they'll win me over and I'll give it a go. I don't know. But have any of you guys checked out this gameplay? Did you check out the leaked video for Skull and Bones? I wish I could have seen it, but I didn't. But let me know if you did. And let me know what you guys think about this game down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. So I don't know. We'll see. I expect we'll hear more from this game very soon and probably have a release date in the coming weeks. And so with that, let's move on to the games that we've been playing. For me, it's all been Elden Ring. I've been just engulfed in Elden Ring. And I'm about 22 hours in now. I checked my game clock and I've done quite a bit exploring. And I think I mentioned last week that I had made it to like the first main story boss or whatever. And I was getting my ass handed to me and I was like, I'm just going to go explore and try to level up. And I did. And exploring's fun. There's so much to see and there's so many like things nestled into the game and the world. And like I found little caverns and I found some catacombs, which all end with like the boss battle. And it's just a joy to explore. And one of the things that's kind of nice about this game is there are like side quests and little objectives to do, but you're not bombarded with them like on a typical open world game where you've got this marker on your map and this checklist to do. It's like you hear a hint from maybe an NPC or some random character that you encountered, and it's up to you to kind of remember that and go figure it out. So it does not hold your hand whatsoever. And so it's really interesting. So like, for example, I was just exploring this one area and then also I kept hearing this howling in there. I thought there was like a pack of wolves or something by me, but then there was some message on the ground that said like, oh, look up, there's an NPC character. And I finally see this like NPC character way up high. And I was like, what? And also the messages say gesture. And I had no idea what that meant. So I was like, okay. And I tried a bunch of gestures. Nothing happened. And then I just moved on. I went on. And then I finally talked to someone else. I think it was one of the store merchants. And he had said, oh yeah, here I heard you saw this guy. And he's like, try this gesture and then you can talk to him. Like he'll be your friend or whatever. But, that's not exactly what he said. I'm totally summarizing that there. But I went back, did the gesture, and then I got to talk to this guy. And then he's like, hey, I'm looking for this dude. So now I've got to go find this dude. And so it's really cool how it doesn't hold your hand. Yes, it can be a little frustrating at times, but this game doesn't hold your hand at all. And it's kind of a breath of fresh air compared to a lot of modern open world RPGs. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the game. I've taken on several side bosses, and I just recently beat what is it, Marguerite, that first main boss, and then the Godric, which that boss battle was epic, so epic. Like that, the music and the kind of setting, it was just fantastic. And that's one of the things I love about these games is just the soundtrack, the boss battles, so good. And I gotta say, I mentioned last week that I feel like a total noob and just out of my element. But I feel like I'm getting back in my element. I feel like I'm finding my groove, getting into my flow. I found this. So in one of the catacombs that I explored, I found this like +7 spear from this dude who just wanted to pick a fight with me. And I've been using that ever since because I'm kind of running like a dexterity build. And it's just more powerful than anything else I've got out there. So I've just been running that and getting pretty good with it. And so I just feel like I'm getting in my groove, finally figuring out bosses and having a little patience. And like Godric, he kicked my ass several times. And when I finally beat him, it's funny because I I got him down to where he had, barely just a sliver of health. And I only had a sliver of health, no more flasks left. And I was like, I got to shoot this guy with my bow and arrow or something. Let me just get some distance and just shoot him so he doesn't kill me. And I ended up doing that. And that's how I beat him. And man, that sense of victory is just so good. So good. And it's one of those games right now where it's like, even when I'm not playing it, I'm thinking about it. So it's certainly captured me. And then also I want to mention this too, because as I've been playing, I've kind of been thinking about this game and how From Software would balance difficulty, since the prior games were, very linear, and like the first bosses, were meant for lower levels, and then as you kind of progress through the game, bosses get harder and have more HP and so on and so forth. So I was kind of curious how they would balance that, and I feel like for the most part they've done. Like the enemies you encounter are all kind of fairly balanced, with whatever level you're at. However, the bosses aren't necessarily, and you don't know kind of what that level requirement is to fight a boss. And that's kind of my biggest gripe with this game. So there was this one area I explored. I forget what it's called, but it's like this underground area, and it's just gorgeous looking. And then I finally made it to the boss, which is like this giant moose looking thing. And I was fighting him and just kind of getting my ass handed to me. And then I was like, I'm gonna see, like, am I too low level for this boss? And I looked up the recommended level, and I was like, it was like 50 something, and I was like 30, and I was like, oh shit, well, I'll just come back. And so that's I wouldn't know that if I didn't, look that up. And so I don't know what the solution to that is. And I know to like some Dark Souls purists, it'd be like, well, you just got to get good and, figure out the boss and just beat it. And on one hand, that's fair, but on the other hand, for me, I don't want to spend my time beating my head against the wall when I'm not ready to fight a boss. And I almost just wish there was some sort of indicator just to kind of tell me if I wanted to see that indicator. So again, I don't know what the solution is, but that's kind of been my biggest problem, because I've encountered a couple of bosses where I'm not ready. Like so I fell for those transporter chests, those like mimic chests that take you off. And so I fell for two of them actually. And I'll come back to one of them in a second, but one of them brought me to this like almost like way other side of the map, and it looks like kind of like late game type area. And there's this big dude in front of me just standing there. And I walked up to him and I was like, let me see if I can hit this guy and see what happens. Turns out it's a boss, all out of nowhere, and just one shots me instantly. And I'm like, oh shit. I looked him up and I'm like, oh, I need to be way higher level to fight this guy. So I don't know. I wish there was some sort of indicator, but man, there's some fun moments in this game. So I mentioned I did get transported in the chest. And the first time I got transported, it's funny because I read about this. The one thing I've read about this game was this chest. And I fell for it anyways. It takes you to this like cavern, and it's just such a troll because there's really tough dudes in there. And I ended up fighting my way to another boss, which again I was low level for. and lost a bunch of souls too because I went in, finally made it to the boss, died instantly, and then tried to make it back and died. But turns out I just had to run the other way and it was really easy to get out. But nonetheless, what a troll for that. But there's so many good moments too. Like in kind of the first area, there's like a kind of lower level lake, and that was one area I was like, oh, I haven't really gone down here, let me explore it. Out of nowhere, a dragon drops down and it's a boss battle. And I was like, what the hell? Pretty dope. But I ended up taking that guy down fairly easy. But yeah, just epic moments, a lot of fun. I'm really looking for one of the weapons I like to use in the Souls games is and I don't know if I'm going to say this right, but a rapier, like one of those like pointy swords that you kind of jab with. So I'm looking for one of those because those are like just, I don't know, I love those weapons. So, but I don't know, man. It's awesome. I'm really enjoying it. And 22 hours in, lots more to explore and do. So yeah, great stuff there. Very excited. But let me know what games you guys are playing down in the comments below so we can highlight that in next week's episode. And now, let's get to the main topic of this week's episode. About 20 or so minutes in, we're actually cruising along pretty nicely. And that is, let's talk about that Xbox showcase. So as I mentioned, Xbox announced their showcase. I believe it's June 12th, if I'm not mistaken, this year. It's their Xbox Bethesda Showcase. And it's their E3-like event. And I've been wanting to, because I feel like I've been a little hard on Xbox, I was like, originally I was going to say, let's just go through the first-party studios and kind of see what they're working on, talk about their games, and do that. And I thought that'd be fun. But instead, now with this announcement, I was like, okay, let's kind of do that similar format, but let's predict what will be shown on this showcase. So that's what we're going to do. That's kind of the format we're going to do. So I want to go through the first party studios of Xbox and Bethesda. I'm not really going to touch on any Activision Blizzard stuff till the end because I don't expect them to be super highlighted there, but nonetheless, we're going to kind of go through each of the studios, talk about what I think they'll show and some of their games, and kind of go from there. So besides this first one, I'm not predicting the order in which any of these games will be shown besides this first one. So keep that in mind as well. And so with the first one, I think it's an obvious one. I think it's the big elephant in the room. I think it's going to be one of the highlights of this showcase, and that is Starfield from Bethesda Game Studios. I think they've slowly been putting out kind of Starfield related things, little videos, like they most recently put out some sort of music video, like the music of Starfield. And we haven't seen any gameplay yet. We've seen a couple of like concept arts and leaked screenshots and stuff like that, but no gameplay. So I expect that we will see an extended look at the gameplay, similar to what they did for Fallout 4 during that kind of marketing cycle, because it's kind of the same timeline now leading up to the game's release. And so that's what I think. I think we'll get a pretty good look, an in-depth look at the Starfield gameplay. And there's a lot of hype around this game, man. This is a big one for Xbox, and I think this is both Bethesda and Xbox. I think this is a really set the tone for this new generation of Xbox, because they've made a lot of studio acquisitions, spent a ridiculous amount of money. Now's the time to see, will it start to pay off here? And I think Starfield is that first statement piece. And for me, I'm cautiously optimistic for this game. I'm looking forward to it. I certainly want to play it when it comes out. But I don't know, I think about Bethesda Game Studios' track record recently, really since Fallout 4. And like Fallout 4, I enjoyed that game, but it was wasn't the same level as like Fallout New Vegas or Fallout 3 even. And so, obviously it wasn't the same as like Skyrim level either. So, and then you had like Fallout 76, and I don't know, they just really have not been putting out good stuff here lately for the last 7 years. Really? Didn't Fallout 4 come out in 2015? 2016? I can't remember. But nonetheless, it's been quite a few years where they just really have not delivered. And a lot of their games typically come out buggy. They've got, system issues and just those types of things. So I don't know. I do think there's potential with this game, though. Now, one of the things I saw kind of floating around is there was an insider who I think posted something on Reddit. And I think he either works at the studio or used to work at the studio. And he basically said a couple things about the game, having worked on it. And he said, and this was reported by a couple video game outlets as well. And so he said, the flying sucks and the engine is terrible, but the game looks good. However, it's not Horizon Forbidden West good. And also the game is fun. So those are the kind of bullet points he shared there. And again, it's just a rumor. He's since deleted it, so maybe he was about to get caught, or I don't know. I think, to me, this is believable here. So first off, the flying sucks. So that potentially confirms that there is flying in the game, which I think a lot of people anticipated, to fly from planet to planet. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. The engine is terrible. To me, that's no surprise here. Bethesda has a track record of having kind of just a not very well optimized engine for their games, which leads to a lot of bugs. And I wouldn't be surprised if Starfield suffers from the same thing. So I could believe that. Game looks good. I can also believe that. I think it's going to look great on Xbox Series X. And it's fun. I do think this game will be fun, certainly. And, the more I kind of hear about this game and kind of think about it, and with the flying mechanics, it kind of sounds like, No Man's Sky combined with the Outer Worlds, which, okay, yeah, sign me up. That kind of sounds cool. I don't know how fun it's going to be to fly and go from planet to planet, but having the dialogue and the action and combat of the Outer Worlds, it sounds great. So I like I said, I think there's potential here, but man, there's just so much hype for this game, and I think a lot of people just need to kind of temper those expectations and try to be realistic here. But who knows? I mean, they could just blow us away. And I think the best case scenario here is they do something kind of genre breaking like they did with Skyrim. But I just don't know if that's repeatable. So I don't know. I really don't know. The other thing I was kind of thinking about too with this game in particular in Bethesda is they typically do collector's editions, right? Like Fallout 4 had this crazy cool collector's edition with the Pit-Boy. Fallout 76 had a cool collector's edition with the helmet, or not Fallout 4, I'm sorry, Fallout 76. And so they always do kind of collector's editions, but now that they're under the Xbox banner, Xbox couldn't give two shits about game sales, and so it'll be interesting to see how they go about pushing the collector's editions, because it's not about game sales, it's about getting people to Game Pass here. And so are they going to do a collector's edition? I would still expect it, but will they sell a lot of them now on the Xbox? It just seems, I don't know, it just seems kind of almost contradictory to what Xbox wants to do. So it'll be, I don't know, would people buy a Starfield collector's edition? I mean, I might if it's pretty dope. If there's something really cool there, I'd consider it. So I don't know. We'll see. But I do think Starfield for sure going to be there. In-depth gameplay. I think they're going to open with this. And as far as Elder Scrolls 6 goes, I don't expect anything. I don't think we'll see this here. I mean, maybe an update, but I really don't think they need this. And so I think they all have everything they need here. So no Elder Scrolls 6, because that game ain't coming out for 4 more years. So settle down, folks. Settle down. Next up from 343 Industries, I think we'll get some Halo Infinite updates. So I think we'll get a look at their roadmap. I think they'll also share some stats on the game and their, in quotes, success. And it's interesting because success used to mean like game sales, right? Or player counts, but I think that's what we'll see. We'll see, you know, total number of players on Game Pass, maybe a bunch of weird multiplayer stats like 20 million kills or 20 billion kills or something like that, or X number of hours played. So I think we'll get some stats like that to talk about the success of Halo Infinite. But we'll definitely get an insight into some of the future updates, new season, and their roadmap for Halo Infinite. And then after that is Arcane. And if you remember, so these guys did Deathloop, but they also showcased Redfall, that kind of almost Left 4 Dead vampire looking game. And so here, I think we're going to get a release date here. I think we'll get a nice trailer, show some gameplay with a solid release date. And interesting, I forgot that they said summer of 2022 for this game at last year's showcase. So I'm not predicting this, but they could even do a date like available now type of thing with this game. However, I don't think they'll do that because this is a big AAA game. I expect this end of summer. I think that's when it'll come out. And like I said, it has Left 4 Dead vibes, and it seems to be a multiplayer-focused game. So one of the things I've been thinking about with this game in particular is that Arcane is typically single-player games. Like that's what their previous titles have been. So seeing this shift to a seemingly multiplayer-focused game, I think will be interesting, and we'll see how if they can pull it off. So I'm going to keep my eye on this one for sure, but I don't know if it's one of those games that speaks to me. If it's kind of in that Left 4 Dead, Back 4 Blood type of game, then maybe I'll pass on it. Or maybe I'll try it, on the Game Pass, but it's probably not going to be a game for me. And that's unfortunate because I really do like Arcane and I like their previous games. I'm a fan of the studio. Like Dishonored, I love those games. I think they're fantastic. And Prey was good. A little weird, but it was good. And Deathloop, I enjoyed that one as well. I thought that was a lot of fun. So I'm a fan of Arcane's studios and their work. And so we'll see more about this game and if it appeals to me and you out there. Speaking of Deathloop, I'm not sure if in the kind of PlayStation exclusivity contract, if they can talk about it, but if they can, I'd expect them to give a release date for Deathloop on Game Pass, which I would expect in end of September, early October for Deathloop to come to Xbox Game Pass, because it'll have been a year at that time. So I think they'll drop that as well. After that is Ninja Theory, and this is Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. Now, here, I think we'll just get another trailer with a release date. I think we'll finally get a release date here. That's the big thing. Now, remember last December at the Game Awards, they showed off kind of an extended gameplay, which the game looked gorgeous. I mean, this is a beautiful looking game. Very realistic. So, I don't think they need to show much more of this game. I think everyone kind of knows what they're getting into. So I think they just give it a release date, call it good. Just call it good. That's good. That's all we need. Just let us know when it's coming out. And I think that's all I need to do here. Now, Hellblade, I'm looking forward to Hellblade 2. I think the first Hellblade was great. It's a really unique game in the sense that, when you play it, because it recommends that you play it with headphones. And when you do that, you're just kind of immersed into this experience, and it toys with the idea, this, what is it, like bipolar personality disorders, kind of mental health issues and stuff like that. Very interesting take on it from a video game perspective, and I think it's fascinating. I think they did a really good job. The audio work in that game is just phenomenal. And to come from I don't know if there's so much of a small studio anymore, but they were a small studio for Hellblade. Now Hellblade 2, I think they've definitely expanded their team. So I don't know. I'm excited for this game. We'll see how it does. And kind of a bummer that it's not coming to PlayStation, but that's okay. And then after that, you have Turn 10 Studios. And so this one, I feel like is a no-brainer. It's their time. It's Turn 10's time to bring us Forza Motorsport 8. So given the track record, last year was Forza Horizon 5. Now it's Forza Motorsport time. So to me, it just makes sense. So I would expect that we see this with a November release date. And then moving on to Undead Labs, and these are the guys that brought us State of Decay. And so here, I think we'll see a gameplay trailer of State of Decay 3 with a release window, not a release date, but a window. And so I'm kind of thinking this is a summer 2023 game. Now, one of the things I didn't know, but according to IGN, there was a recent job opening for a sound designer on this game for the studio, which is indicative that it's still in active development and probably is still a little ways off. So maybe summer 2023 is a little ambitious, could be even farther than that, but State of Decay 2 came out in 2018? So it's been a good couple of years. So I could see it happen. I'm going to put that prediction out there that we'll see that. And State of Decay is an interesting franchise. I remember when it first came out on the 360, and I had tried the demo of it because it came out to the Xbox 360 arcade, which, if you remember that, was so awesome. A great way to spotlight indie games. And that's kind of where a lot of indie console gamings were born. Like that's where it all began. But I remember trying it out. I think I played a demo of some sort, and I thought it was cool, but I never came back to it. And because I remember buying it too, actually, on the 360, but I never came back to that game. And then on the Xbox One, they've ported that game over, and then I eventually played through it all the way, and it's fun. I think it's a fun game. It was a little long, a little repetitive towards the end, but really cool concept, and I enjoyed my time with it. I think it's cool for what it is. I haven't played State of Decay 2. I picked it up with every intention of playing it right away, but I just never got around to it. And I know the big thing with State of Decay 2 is kind of that cooperative multiplayer component, which I think a lot of folks were looking forward to. So hopefully it worked out for you if you tried it out and enjoy that. But for me, I don't know. I'd like to get to that game at some point, but there's just realistically, it's probably not going to happen for a long time, if it ever does. So with State of Decay 3, for me, it's going to have to be really compelling to kind of draw me in right away. Otherwise, it's going to kind of just maybe just hit the backlog, and maybe I'll get to it eventually. So I don't know. I think State of Decay 2, I think these guys have something, but the zombie trope is a little tired, so they may have to get a little creative and bring something new to the table to really entice gamers to come back. So we'll see, though. We shall see. And then for Zenimax Online, these are the guys that do Elder Scrolls Online. For here, I think we're going to get a trailer and release date for their next Elder Scrolls Online expansion, which I think is the High Isle expansion, if I'm not mistaken. I don't pretend to follow this game and the countless expansions that they have. There's so many of them. It's crazy. But I would expect that. I think that, to me, is a easy call. I know they've announced it already, but I think we'll get it. Just reaffirm it. Get a release date. I think it'd probably come out later this year. And yeah, this is one of those games, Elder Scrolls Online, that I really want to get into. It's one of those games that I look at and I'm like, this is really cool. There's so much content here. They've had 5 expansions. It's crazy. And it looks awesome. It looks really, really cool. I've watched Twitch gameplay of it, and it looks really, really cool. And I actually picked it up on the Xbox a couple years ago, and joined in just the base game, vanilla, and hopped in, started it, because I think I had heard that if you do want to play it as a single player, you can do that, and it's not that bad. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll give it a try. And I did, and surprisingly, that opening section is awesome. It feels very just like an Elder Scrolls game. And I was just playing it by myself. It was fantastic. It was really, really cool. And so I got through that first section, and then kind of got to the open world. Didn't really know what I was doing, and so I kind of just fell out of that game. But I gotta say, it really is a high quality game from what I can tell from the little bit I've played of it. And part of me wants to get back to it because there is just so much content to explore in there that, if you're a fan of Elder Scrolls, is so worth it. But I just don't know that I could ever get into an MMO like that, even if I do play it single player. But man, it looks so cool. I wish I could get into those games as much as I would like to, but I I just can't. Now, the other thing I thought was interesting, because this game seems to still be going strong. It's chugging along, and I think it's estimated to have over 20 million like registered players, which is pretty phenomenal. And it's crazy to think that this game came out back in 2014, and it's still just cruising. And it's got I'd say a fairly loyal fan base, and it's really found its niche out there in the MMO world. So pretty cool stuff, nonetheless. I think they've got something here that they should certainly keep going. All right. So after that, we have Obsidian Entertainment. This is a fun one here. So my hope for this one is that they show us Avowed. I want to see kind of a nice in-depth look at this game. Give me, what can I expect from Avowed? That's what I want to see. Now, I think the Outer Worlds sequel was just getting started when they originally teased that. I mean, it was just a cinematic teaser trailer for that one. So I think that was just getting started. That'll need some more time. From what they've seen, I mean, Avowed, yeah, it was just a little teaser, but it was, granted, you can make this look like gameplay if you wanted to, but it looked more gameplay-ish than just a cinematic teaser. So my assumption is Avowed is farther along than Outer Worlds 2. However, I'm not 100% sure on that. And likely both of these games are still a ways off, but I'm really hoping Avowed is closer than the Outer Worlds. I'm really curious about this game. I want to see what Obsidian can do, because I think for a lot of folks, it's like, oh, this is the kind of off-brand Elder Scrolls game, right? I think that's what it's going to be compared to. And it's weird to think about that too, because that's all under the same umbrella of Xbox. Elder Scrolls and there's like both these teams are all first-party Xbox. They're partners essentially, right? So it's just weird to kind of think about it in that context. But I'm very curious about this game. I want to know, is it going to be what Outer Worlds is to Fallout? Is it going to be like that? Or is it going to be something more? Are they going to bring something new to the table and deliver just this fantastic fantasy RPG? I'm hopeful for that and very curious on it. Now, there's also indication, as I was reading up on this, that the studio's working on a third unannounced game. So maybe we hear about that, but these guys are spread pretty thin. So I'm not going to hold my breath on that. I know a lot of folks want some Fallout, basically want a Fallout game from these guys, because this is the team that brought us Fallout New Vegas, arguably the most beloved Fallout game. So I think it'd be really cool if they did like a Fallout New Vegas, like remaster, remake, whatever you want to call it. There's, been speculation or hopes and rumors of Fallout New Vegas 2. That would just blow my mind. I think that would blow a lot of people's minds if they did New Vegas 2. I don't think that's possible. I just don't think they would do that. Not Obsidian themselves per se, but I don't think Bethesda and Xbox would do that. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see, but a remaster or like a remake of New Vegas would be dope. That'd be super cool. Though I don't think Obsidian would necessarily do that. So the biggest thing here though is show us Avowed, give us some gameplay, maybe give us a release window. I'm not predicting that, but definitely they got to show it off. Please show us this game. After that, we have Rare. These are the guys that did Sea of Thieves. And for this one, kind of like Elder Scrolls, I think we're just going to get another update, maybe some content announcement for Sea of Thieves. And this is just another one of those games that just surprises me with the amount of success it's had. Like I mentioned before, a little bit earlier in the show, that it kind of started off a little rough, and then a lot of people were complaining about the lack of content and so on, but they've turned that ship around, pun intended, and have really found a following. And this game is consistently on the top, Steam charts, and it's most played, on Xbox charts. It's just, this game is just successful. It's crazy. You don't really hear about it too often, but it is successful. A lot of people, there's still tons of people streaming it on Twitch and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I'll just more content for Sea of Thieves. Just keep that thing going. And I played Sea of Thieves right. I think they had a demo when it first came out, or some sort of beta or something. And I tried it out, and I never really thought this game would be for me, but I wanted to try it out anyways, and kind of confirmed that it's not really for me. But I kind of felt that there wasn't really much to do. I was like, oh, this is kind of it. Like, this is not really my thing. But I know they've updated it, and there's so much more to do now. It's a much deeper game than it originally was. But I don't know. Not really for me. It seems that's definitely one of those games where it's just better with friends. So not really my cup of tea, but I certainly expect we'll hear about the next set of content or season for Sea of Thieves. Now, Mojang Studios, Minecraft dudes, this is an interesting one because, man, you just think about Minecraft. Minecraft came back in 2011, I think it was, and it's just a cultural phenomenon at this point. It's so crazy. And to think that Xbox bought them is wild. But I read that IGN had reported that they have 2 all-new projects that are not Minecraft related in the works. And so I think we'll get a glimpse of one of those projects. And I think they'll do it in the sense of kind of like one of those developer diaries. Like, from the studio that brought you Minecraft and Minecraft Dungeons comes this whatever that is. I have no idea what it could be, but whatever that is. And it could be, maybe it's like, I know they were toying around with augmented reality for a bit. I don't think that'll be it, but I don't know. I think we'll get a glimpse at that next project though, kind of in developer diary style. I think that's what'll happen. And maybe they'll do another update to Minecraft Dungeons. I know that's that kind of Diablo-esque game, which I played through the main vanilla game of that. It was fun. Very basic, but it was fun. I know they've done a lot of content updates for that. So it might be kind of fun to go back at some point, but yeah, I think that's what we'll get from Mojang. Now moving on to Machine Games. This is another fun one because this is where I think we'll get the first full trailer for Indiana Jones. I still think this game's a ways off, so I don't think we're going to get like a full-blown gameplay, in-depth analysis trailer or anything like that. But I think this will be a trailer that'll give us an idea of what to expect. And I think one of the most interesting things about this that I've been thinking about from Machine Games, Machine Games is typically a first-person shooter studio. Like these guys that did Wolfenstein, right? Those games are pretty good, and they are first-person shooters. So I don't think we're going to get... I can't imagine an Indiana Jones game being in a first-person perspective or being a first-person shooter. So I'm curious, are they going to do like what Guerrilla did and go from first-person shooter to third-person action adventure? Because I don't know, to me, Indiana Jones just seems like it would be a third-person action adventure game. I think we'll finally get an idea of what this game is and what perspective it is, which I think is a big question on everyone's minds. I still don't think this game will be out for maybe like 2 more years. I think it's still got a little bit more time to kind of cook under there, but I do think we'll get our first glimpse of it. And I think one of the other things that people are thinking about is Wolfenstein 3. And I think the studio has come out and said that, yeah, we would do Wolfenstein 3. I think Pete Hines over at Bethesda said, yeah, Wolfenstein 3 is definitely something we want to do. But I think they're too in Indiana Jones world right now to even think about Wolfenstein 3, though I could see us getting Wolfenstein 3 in the future. So I don't expect Wolfenstein 3. I expect Indiana Jones. And then we have id Software, another fun one. And this is, word on the street is they're working on a Quake reboot, which sounds awesome. And so I think we're going to get our first glimpse of this. I don't know how far along it is. I could see it coming out earliest in 2023. So I think we'll get a cinematic trailer, confirm its existence, and it'll come out in 2023. And Quake is an interesting series. It's primarily always been like a PC-centric franchise, so that's why I've really never gotten into it. But I remember some of the Quake games came to Xbox in the original Xbox days and the Xbox 360 days. And I always thought those games looked really cool and I always wanted to try them, but I never did. So being able to kind of maybe get into this franchise with a Quake reboot sounds awesome. I would love that. So I think that's what we'll get. I think we'll get a glimpse of Quake from id Software. And then we have Compulsion Games, and this is a studio I forgot Microsoft acquired. So these are the guys that brought us We Happy Few. And really, since that game has released, they've been pretty quiet. So I think we'll get a tease for their next game. No release window or anything like that. They'll just get us a tease so we know what they're working on. So I think we'll hear from them. And man, I gotta say, We Happy Few. I didn't play the game. I tried one of their betas that they had. But to me, this game is a disappointment. Because I remember when they first showed off this game and that trailer where everyone's taking like crazy pills and then you decide like not to take it and you finally like you're the one who's everyone thinks you're crazy, but you know everyone else is crazy. Like it just I don't know, I got BioShock vibes from it. And it just looks so good. And then to come to find out, it's a survival game. Like when I jumped into it and it's a survival game, like an open world survival game. Like what? What is this crap? I don't like survival games really. And you're going to take this awesome premise and turn it into a survival game. I just don't understand what you're doing here. I don't get it. I don't understand. So to me, that's just such a disappointment. So I hope their next game is better. I hope it's not a survival game. And I think we'll get a glimpse of it at the showcase. And then moving on to the Coalition, the Gears of War studio. I kind of going on a limb here. I think they'll give us a cinematic tease for Gears 6. And this could be one of those like one more thing, Gears of War 6. I think it'll be called Gears 6. They're dropping the of War thing, which I don't know why, but they did with Gears 5. So I think we'll get a cinematic tease for Gears 6. And if you remember the Unreal Engine 5 showcase that I mentioned a couple weeks ago, they did show off a tease, I think, of some of the like artwork or some of the work that they've been doing in the Unreal Engine 5. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of tease for Gear 6. I think they're working on it. I think we'll get... I don't know, I could see it being kind of this one more thing moment. Like, here's Gear 6. Boom. Now, I was also kind of thinking... Like, would they ever do like a Gears Tactics 2? And Gears Tactics, I remember when that game was announced, I was like, yeah, this looks awesome. I'm in. And I picked it up day one. Never got around to playing it, unfortunately. And I kind of beaten myself over the head. I'm probably never going to do this again with an Xbox game because Xbox games, like physical games, just drop in price so fast because Game Pass, everyone's playing it on Game Pass. No one's really buying them. So stores got to get rid of their stocks. Because Gears Tactics dropped to like $5 real quick, and I paid full price for it. But anywho, I think that game looks really cool. I've heard it's pretty good, a little long, but I'd love to get to it at some point. So I'd be curious if they would do another, like a sequel to that. I don't know if that game was successful enough to warrant a sequel. So who knows? Now, that's not all of Xbox's first-party studios. So these studios that I'm about to go through here, I don't think we'll hear from them. So Double Fine, I don't think we're going to hear from them because they just released Psychonauts 2. They have The Initiative, which that's the studio doing Perfect Dark. And I don't think we're going to hear about Perfect Dark on this one because I think this game is in development hell. I really do. Because there was a report out, I think late last year, that they brought in Crystal Dynamics to assist with development. And I can't imagine that a first-party team hiring an outside of your first-party teamwork to assist on a game isn't in development trouble. I just don't see a world where that exists. So I think this game is in trouble. I really do. Let's see. Playground Games. They just released Forza Horizon 5, but I forgot this. That they're also doing, I think, the Fable reboot. But I don't think we'll see Fable. I think Fable is still very early in development. I think that game is a ways off. I'd be surprised if we saw anything substantial for Fable. I think this is one of those games where it was just, hey, we're going to tease it just to get everyone hyped up, but we really don't have anything to show you because it's just getting started. So I don't expect anything from that. And then lastly, Tango Gameworks. These guys just released Ghostwire Tokyo on the PlayStation 5. So they're supposedly working on an Xbox exclusive, but that's got to be a ways off since they just released a game. And we know Ghostwire Tokyo is not coming to Xbox until March of 2023 because of the 1-year exclusivity. So I don't think we're going to hear from these guys as well. Now, outside of their kind of first-party teams, I'm excluding Activision and Blizzard from these. So from the Activision side, though, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Call of Duty teaser for Modern Warfare 2. That Modern Warfare 2, they just released a teaser this week confirming it. That is the next Call of Duty game. So I would expect to see a nice trailer, maybe some gameplay for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Keeping in line with Activision Blizzard, I also think we'll get a release date for Diablo Immortals, that mobile Diablo game that everyone's super stoked for. Now, I was thinking about, would they do this for Diablo 4? I don't think so. I think that game is a little farther off than we think. I think that's had some development troubles, especially with everything that's going on over at Blizzard and Activision. But I know they did, like last year, some sort of beta, like closed beta for Diablo Immortals. So I think that game's a little closer. So I think we'll get a release date for Diablo Immortals on the mobile side. And I got to be honest, I'd try it, because I like Diablo. So I'd try it. And then I was also thinking, what are some third-party devs that might make an appearance? And so I listed just a couple here that I could pull off the top of my mind. And that is, I think we'll get a slew of indies, like just an indie showcase reel, all coming to Game Pass. So these are just a bunch of Game Pass games, day one, that they can showcase in a little sizzle reel. Speaking of Skull and Bones, we talked about that game earlier. I think Ubisoft will show it off here, and I think it'll come to Game Pass day one. With it being a shift to live service, they want players to play this game. I think it'll be on Game Pass day one. I think that's going to be their strategy to get people in the door for this game. So I think they'll show off that gameplay here and give it to Game Pass day one. And then lastly, I think we're going to have our first teaser for Jedi Fallen Order 2. Now, Jedi Fallen Order is not an Xbox exclusive. Neither will Skull and Bones be. But if I'm not mistaken, the first Jedi Fallen Order was showcased during Xbox and kind of marketed as more of an Xbox-focused title. So I think they'll do the same with Jedi Fallen Order 2. I think we'll get our first little teaser of it. Nothing really of substance, but a teaser. Confirm its existence. And we'll see that here at the Xbox Showcase. And that's all I got. Those are some of my predictions, kind of going through all their first-party studios and what we'll see from this showcase. And if all this, if all this kind of comes to fruition to some degree, I mean, that's a banging showcase, I got to say. And, I think, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I think we're starting, once Starfield kicks it off, we're going into this new period of Xbox that's going to be hitting hard with some games. Now, I got to say, I will say this, that a lot of their games, at least as of late, don't speak to me directly. But on the RPG side, with Bethesda and Obsidian, I think they can win me back a little bit and kind of get me drawn back into the ecosystem from an exclusive standpoint. So, but like I said, there's a lot of things to look forward to in kind of going through this list. And there's just so many studios that it's going to be, I think they're going to be hitting hard with a lot of games. And it'll be interesting. This is going to be the real test too for Game Pass on if they can draw in more subscribers to Game Pass and get a lot of players into these games. And then you think about some of these single player focused games. Is it worth it to put these single player focused games that are more than likely one and done experiences up on a subscription service rather than sell them a la carte? And not to say that they wouldn't sell them a la carte, they will, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I think Xbox is on the brink of something exciting. I think Xbox gamers have some stuff to look forward to. And I'm definitely going to tune into the showcase. So that's all I got for you guys on this fairly lengthy episode of the podcast, just over an hour or roughly an hour. But man, my voice is getting tired. So lots of talking and lots of good stuff. So let me know what you guys think about the Xbox Showcase. What games do you think they will show and bring to the table at their showcase? I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I do appreciate your love, kindness, and support. Remember, new episodes of the show are out on podcast services every Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And as always, the best way you can support the show is leave a rating, drop a comment. I want to hear from you. I want to inject you guys into the show as much as I can. So feel free to ask me questions, leave me comments, give me corrections. I'm all for it. And until next time, I'm Bonfire, and I'll see you online.